Today, the Freedom Bill will be unveiled by the government, and one of the things it looks set to tackle is wheel clamping.
It's expected to introduce a ban on clamping on private property, and is designed to put cowboy clampers out of business. Sounds like good news, doesn't it? But Daybreak has learned that what's likely to fill the vacuum could be just as bad. Our consumer editor Phil Ray-Smith has this report.
It's the new front in the war waged by private parking enforcers, the letterbox in your front door. That's how Jim Smith received this official-looking parking fine. It was left to him to prove to the private parking company he'd been fined in error.
The problem is that you have to do a lot of investigation to try to prove yourself innocent, which is the part I don't like. You know, they're not really proving you guilty.
We've had hundreds of complaints from motorists who are intimidated by these letters. They think they are official letters, they think they're authorised by the local authority or government, whereas they're not.
To prove how easy it is to set yourself up as a parking enforcer, I'm going to do just that right here outside the Daybreak studios. All I have to do is register on a website like this one and then display a sign in a prominent location. Then all you have to do is wait for some poor unsuspecting soul to park on your private land. You take a photo of their car, you note down their registration plate, you upload both to the website and they'll receive a ticket through the post. While many motorists pay up to £150 to avoid the hassle of contesting these fines, one man who issues them admitted to me if the motorist asks the landowner, they'll usually drop the fine. It's not cost effective to take them to court.
We don't take people to court.
But how many people actually do pay up?
Only 60 to 65% pay up in the first place.
With no independent regulation or adjudicator, the concern is that newly banned cowboy clampers will now colonise the private parking ticket industry.
Well, with us, two men that appeared on that piece from Phil, President of the Automobile Association, Edmund King, and Kostas Konstantinou, the head of Flashpark, which is a private parking enforcement company. Really interesting report, that. Is there a problem, Edmund?
Well, I think the really good news is that wheel clamping on private land is going to be outlawed. We've been campaigning against this for some 10 years because there are immense abuses when people were wheel clamped. 3-year-old girl held hostage in Doncaster and her mother told to go and get cash, a hearse clamp with a body in the back, you know, Good Samaritans, disabled people. So that was outrageous. So that's the really good news. I think the worrying thing is that when many of these clampers are put out of business, that they will enter into this world of giving out tickets on private land. And I think the worry there is for the consumer, for the motorist, there are no safeguards. There's no independent appeal whatsoever. So what our concern is that these companies can basically charge what they want, send out letters that look very much like local authority letters. They use terms like PCN, penalty charge notice. So people who receive them sometimes assume that it is the local authority. They get very worried, so they just pay up, even if they haven't caused an offence.
Yeah, well, let's be clear, it is a legal practice, obviously, but there seems to be just a bit of a grey area, and that's possibly what gets to all of us. Is that, would you agree with that?
When wheel clampers aren't going to have a job, the last thing they're going to do is set up office with a very, very high-tech world, which takes a minimum investment of about £50,000 to set up a system. We are audited by the DVLA, we're audited by the BPA. When the DVLA come to our office, they carry out strict audits. So we operate within a legal framework. So everything we do has to be spot on. We're not allowed to use the term fine. We have to call it a penalty charge notice, because what it is actually is it's basically an invoice for a breach of contract. So the reality is it's a lot better for a motorist to go back to his car and find that he's got a ticket rather than a wheel clamp.
Well, it is, but it's much better if you can use other ways of stopping people parking illegally. I mean, 30 years ago, when I was at university in a student hall of residence, where we had parking, we had a simple thing like a card and a barrier. And there was no problem, but that didn't make money for anyone, but it worked very well. And what our worry is that many of these things are just about money and there is no appeal. And we know that people get very worried when bailiffs are threatened, they get worried about their credit ratings, etc. So they just pay up. So we need an independent appeal.
I don't
maybe
believe
landowners don't want to pay for that kind of entrance into their own property. You know, maybe they just don't want to have the barrier and the card system. But they do have to look after their private property
absolutely.
as well.
Remember, there's a lot of property where people have got rights of way, so barriers are not allowed to be put up. So, you know, depending on what's written in the deeds of the property. So it answers part of the question by having traffic control equipment, and we're going to see a lot more traffic control equipment. We're going to see more jobs created in the security sector, for argument's sake. A lot more security firms are going to be employed in shopping centre car parks, where perhaps clamping was dealing with the problem. And so the end... Sorry.
No, go on, sorry, to finish your point.
So, no, the end result is... Yeah, OK, the ban's a good thing, and people will move on to tickets, and you know they can appeal them. People can appeal tickets. They can go back to the landowner. They can go back to the landowner. They can say, look, we're really sorry, we shouldn't have parked here. Please, can you cancel our ticket?
With our system, you make it sound very simple because you do get that fear when you open anything with a red-headed thing. Oh, I owe money, and you get scared of phoning. And
the vast majority of the general motoring public in the United Kingdom are law-abiding, honest citizens, and if they get an invoice because they were parked on somebody else's land where they were in clear breach of warning signs, the majority will pay that.
But it's not always in clear breach.
The majority.
I mean, you know, your own website says that you're not allowed to appeal if your permit drops off the windscreen. Now, if you've paid to park somewhere and your permit drops off, it's happened to me, you don't allow an appeal. I mean, you know, that's outrageous. That's
this
just
is
about
the grey area I'm talking about
that
causes a lot
that's
of
not about stopping
concern,
parking.
obviously.
Teething problems, perhaps. Maybe we'll smooth all this out eventually one day. Gents, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate, isn't it? It's going to get us all going.
I got a parking ticket the other day. Wasn't happy.
It wasn't from Costas' fault,
I'll check. I'll check when I go home.